Very good morning, students. Now today we are going to cover up the topic that is the short term and the long term, that is in your chapter number 5th, cost of production and concept of revenue. As further, before this we have done with the various concept of cost, that is real cost, opportunity cost and the monetary cost. Now today we are going to continue with short term and long term. Now firstly, short term and the long term, if we go with that, now whenever you have doing any of the business, okay, or you can just, we are taking as an example of the business, there are both type you can able to see over there. Short term also you can able to see, and the long term also you can able to see. Short term changes and the long term changes. Okay, short term changes, like whenever it is for the 1 or 2 years the business is there, so there is some other either like changes in the raw material, laborers, fuel, ultimately for what, like if the production is going to be increased, if you want to increase your selling, the some other either changes must be there in the raw material, labor and all. So that is for the short period of time. And thereafter long term changes are that is for the longer period, that is the 10 years, 15 years it is taking place. So then it is termed as the long term changes. Now over here you can see the very first point, like according to the time period, that is how the time period is given, like short term and the long term. In over here, like according to the time period also, in short term monetary cost is presented. Now second point, like there are some factor of production whose quantity can be changed easily with the change in quantity of the factor of production. Ultimately, with the, if you want to sell out, okay, if the need to selling increase your selling, ultimately the production need to be increased. Production you are increasing, ultimately the need of raw material, it is not the same as per what you are taking further. There is a need, more need of the raw material, the labor must be needed more, otherwise the labor must be changed. Okay, so this what we can say, there is a changes in all such. Now third, you can see quantity of production also changes, be change in a short period, therefore these are known as the variable factors. So ultimately the production, quantity of the production, firstly, like it is producing less but the requirement is quite more, ultimately the quantity of the production is also need to be increased up. So there is this type of changes what we are doing in terms of raw material, laborers and fuels. So that are the changes that can also be termed as a variable factors. Now you can see the fourth point, like expenditures on those factors, okay, and so expenditures are done on such types of factors that can be termed as your variable cost, okay, or the variable factors. Now the last second point, you can see students, on the other hand, like long term if we see, on the other hand, machinery is there, building of a factory, administrative staff cannot be changed or increased in the short period of time. Okay, like if we talked about the business, so in 1 or 2 years you cannot able to, like you are not going to purchase out the new building, or the either you are going to purchase out the new land for it, or either machinery. As and when you have purchased a machinery, it may going to work for the 2 years ultimately, but that cannot be changed in that particular period of time. Okay, that is not a short term one, that is for the long period of time. With the usage of such machinery, there must be the you need to be take the another the machinery, the okay, so this is, we can say this is for the long period of time, and these are the fixed factor, you can say, that can be last for a longer period, not only for the 1 or 2 years it can be used and then after it going to be damaged or destroyed. It is not such. So machinery, building, administrative staff, these are the fixed one. Then you can see the last, like therefore they are known as what, fixed factor of production, and cost of such type of factor is called the fixed cost of the production, and this is for the longer period of time, this is not for the short period of time. So these are the very first 6 points that you can able to see over here on the screen. Now the next will relate it with the short term and then differently with the long term. Now over here you can see, student, that is the short term points. Now very first, like a short term is such a period in which a producer cannot change the size of the firm but can increase the production by the use of the factor of production capacity. That is correct one. So ultimately we are not making, that is short term to whom which we can term it as like for the 1 or 2 years. So ultimately we are not going to bigger out the size. This will only happen once in the period of long term, that is for the 10 to 15 years if we are doing, okay, the business is running. Ultimately the like one department. If the only you have started up the business with the one shop, then after the two shop, three shop, other you have made the mall for that. Okay, so this is how the long term it is taking place. But over here in the short term, the size of the firm is not changing, but what is happening, only the production is need to be increased up, okay, according to the production capacity, according to the need. So the increase in the production is taking place in the short term. Second point, you can say, student, like short term is such a time period in which certain factor of production are quite fixed. Like you can see, for example, which factor of production are fixed, like plant, heavy machine, building of a factory is such type of thing, like it is going to be fixed up. It is not going to be destroyed or damaged in the just 1 or 2 years. Okay, ultimately when it is arises, when the long term is there, then according to the usage, that is 10 to 15 years thereafter, the machinery we can say we need to be replaced or we need to be buy the new one. But in the short period of time it is quite fixed, like plant, heavy machinery and building. What is changes over here, like what things are increasing or decreasing, like variable factors are increasing or decreasing, that is the raw material, labor, electricity consumption and etc. So ultimately production can be increased or decreased in the short period of time. Just keep in your mind that production is increasing, but not the size is going to be increased in the short period of time. So that is what is written in the short term. Okay, so the variable factor you need to be remembered of, that is the raw material, labor, electricity is going to be increased or decreased according to the production capacity. Okay, whatever the requirement is that, according to that there is an increase and decreasing taking place. So this is the short term. Now let us go with the long term. Now students, you can see the long term. Now long term, you can see long term is a period in which a producer can change all the factor of production. So in this period in this period all the factor of production are variable, not the one is fixed, as what we have seen in the short term, that is plant, heavy machinery, building is quite fixed factor of production, you can term it as. But over here all the things are variable when it is the business for the 10 to 15 or more than that, okay, 15 to 20 years also we can see. So over here all the factors are changes, not the one is fixed. So like example it is given to you, plant is there, heavy machinery, building of a factory, etc. By increasing or decreasing this factor of production can be increased or decreased in the long run. Ultimately the machinery usage is done for the 10 years so much, so the need of the new machinery is quite there to increase the production, or ultimately the new technology may be arrived at that period of time. So according to that we need to bring up the machineries and more. So this is, we can say, like product for the production purposes, this is going to be changed as and when for in wherever the long term business is there. Now thereafter the last third point, you can see production can change the size of the firm. Producer can change the size of the firm, and doing so he can change the total production to a large extent in a long term. So ultimately yes, the producer has a right to change the size of the firm, like one shop he is running, so thereafter two shops, three shops, ultimately he build a huge building for the whole, we can say, or the mall must be we can say built by the producer. So ultimately whenever the long term period of time, we can say all the things are quite variable, so accordingly to change for the total production, so there must be the some other either changes must be taking place. Like one department, the one company is there, the one department, second department, third department, so department wise it is continuously increasing. So here the size of the firm, we can say, that is also increasing. The producers can change the size of the firm, but in the short term the producers cannot change the size of the firm. So that things you need to be kept in your mind, students. And one over there is one is fixed and another is a variable, you can find it out in the short term, but over here in the long term all the things are variable. Okay, do keep it in your mind. Thereafter you can see firm increases the size of the firm by new and modern technology. So ultimately yes, what I said, like machinery what we have usage for the 8 years 9 years, thereafter the new technology is coming. Okay, ultimately we are using such types of machineries and equipments that will help in increasing our production. So ultimately such type of things need to be bring. Okay, so to increase the production, and ultimately production will increase, what is going to happen, going to earn the more profit. So this is how it continuously goes on. So this two things, like short term and long term, you need to be kept in your mind, students. And this short term period and the long term period, that can for this like it can be asked for your 2 marks question, that is difference between can also be asked for this, like differentiate between the short term period and the long term period. So accordingly prepare for this too. Okay, so this is the topic what we have covered up today. In the next lecture we'll cover up with the fixed cost and the variable cost.